A quick shout out to Nick Trebek, who left us a 5-star iTunes review. Nick said, "This is the first high-quality Australian small business podcast I've heard. Matt's content is highly engaging and relevant to my day-to-day issues. So stoked to be hearing it from an Australian accent also." Thanks very much, Nick. Much appreciated. If you folks have any reviews, go ahead and email them in or head straight across to iTunes and leave those reviews, and we will definitely read them out for you. Thank you. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed for another episode. Thank you again for sharing your earbuds with us wherever you are on this planet. And today we are speaking with Devon Tilly out of the United States. He's based in Colorado. He has a couple of companies. One of them is Mountain View Door and Window, and he also is the co-host for the Art of Construction podcast, which I was lucky enough to be a guest on recently. The Art of Construction podcast is very similar to the Site Shed. They actually specialise, or their market is contractors or tradies, as we call them in Australia, and architects. So that is a really fun podcast, and I will definitely post some links to that in the show notes. Very similar content to the Site Shed, but very different format. He runs it with his co-host, Kevin Keefe, and together those two have a very cool dynamic. So anyway, in this podcast, you're going to hear a bit about Devon's journey, I suppose, as an entrepreneur. And he's kicking some massive goals over there in Colorado with his window and door business. So you're going to love this podcast. And if you do enjoy it, do us a favor, head across to iTunes, leave us a review. And also make sure while you're over at iTunes, just check out the Art of Construction podcast. Go and subscribe to that, because I know if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to love that one. And that's all from me.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Devon Tilly, welcome to the Site Shed.
Excited to be here.
Fantastic. And we are communicating across the pond. Well, this afternoon over there in Denver, Colorado. Is that right?
Yeah, end of the business day here. About to go have some brews with my friends and play a little softball after our fireside chat.
Right on. And so you are in Denver, is that right?
Denver, Colorado, yep.
Oh, man, I've had some fantastic times in Denver, Colorado. I love that city.
I'm pretty passionate about it myself.
I actually spent a bit of time up in Aspen in Colorado. I did like nine months or so up there one winter, and that sort of dragged out into a bit of summer either side. So yeah, I love that place. It's a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, I'm lucky to be here. I like your neck of the woods too. We did our honeymoon in the South Island of New Zealand, and cool country over there as well.
Yeah.
Do you guys, when people say New Zealand versus Australia, is that kind of like don't talk about New Zealand, or are you guys friends?
No, that's all right. You Canadians always screw that up. It's just the way it is.
Canadians? That's a whole nother world.
See what I did there? Yeah. No, we're pretty close. The Aussies and the Kiwis, we have a friendly rivalry. It's a bit like the US and Canada. So yeah, I mean, it's a very different country though. We were actually just over there, maybe a month or not even a month ago now. We did a workshop over there, and man, it's such a beautiful place. All the mountains and the lakes, it's just crazy. Where I am in Sydney is a lot more beachy, so we live on the beach and there's surf right out the front and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's all beautiful.
Cool.
So mate, welcome to the show. Just for the listeners, who are not familiar, I actually appeared on Devon's podcast, which is the Art of Construction. They're out of Colorado as well. They basically do a similar thing to the Site Shed. You guys communicate a lot to contractors and architects. So it was a blast being on that show. I'll post some links to that as well in the show notes for anyone that did miss it. But mate, did you get good feedback from that show?
Yeah, it's been excellent for sure, and that was I was really excited to have you on the show, and you knocked it out of the park, and I challenge everyone to go listen to that, and hopefully we can do the same here. But the people that really understand and have really drinking the juice when it comes to podcasts, I think it's really nice to get different perspectives. As far as I have a co-host, and we do them every other Thursday, so they're bi-weekly releases, and the whole premise of it is the Art of Construction specifically designed for contractors and architects to grow their business. Mm-hmm. And the reason we started that is because our premise is all about education, is really how we go to market. And I own a little window and door company that our why when it comes to my window and door company that's called Mountain View Window and Door. We are the best supplier to contractors, architects, and designers in Colorado. So, and we only do windows, doors, and hardware. So that's my company, and I really found the podcast as a way to really to give and you will get. So I learned so much by turning the microphone on, and excited to answer your questions and kind of be the role reversal. It's kind of different for me, as I'm maybe talking too much right off the bat, but I'm used to that one kind of going off and leading. So I'll shut up and answer your questions.
Man, I know what it's like. I was actually saying that to my fiance. It's strange when you're on the other end of the stick and you're actually the one being asked the questions, because you're so used to sort of controlling the conversation. You kind of got to force yourself to shut up at times. All right. Well, so I mean, let's start with, I suppose, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, and then I realized I didn't have that talent. So I switched to big sports guy as a kid, and then I was really big into Monday Night Football. So then I said I want to be the next Dan Deerdorf, and then I realized all those guys were ex-pro athletes. So I figured I better start over, and that's when my entrepreneurial spirit kicked in, and had a lawn mowing company through college, paid my way through college, and got a marketing degree, and have just been working the entrepreneur in the building sector my whole career.
Okay, cool. So that's a bit of a leap from, I suppose, mowing lawns to windows and doors. Talk us through that transition.
Yeah, back to the entrepreneurial spirit. At 12 years old, I had a paper route, and I didn't like that, so I wanted to find the next thing. And the barrier to entry at that, a lawnmower and a pickup truck, and I was in business. And my grandpa helped me as I got going. He gave me a loan for my first weed whacker and riding lawnmower. So then I was really in business, and that was at 14 years old when I could drive. And it was all about the drive to have the stuff and to have a vehicle and build it up from nothing. So I really started that at 14 years old and did that all the way through college. In college, I was the president of the rugby club. Oh. And those guys really know how to party hard, but they'd never have enough cash. So they'd work for me just enough. And I really learned how business works and through college. And I wrote a check, made enough every summer to pay cash through college, and learned the entrepreneur spirit in the real world, but also learned the theories by going to school. So I'm really thankful as far as kind of the school of hard knocks, but I learned so much about how business works. And gosh, if I went back and did it all again, it's like I did it so horrible, but hey, you learn by doing.
Exactly right. And so you mentioned you're a rugby fan.
I am. Yep.
Okay. So did you play at school?
That's what was one of my passions. I put up the boots a little. I've had 2 knee surgeries and, got to focus more on the business and the family now, and I still want to, golf and snowboard and those kinds of things. So now I'm more of now I'm watching rugby, but it's hard when I watch. I really want to get back out there. I was the fly half for my college team, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was a fly half as well back in the day before my knee operations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
That's why I really want to go to New Zealand and, big All Blacks fan. And I'm sure your Australian people love hearing me say that.
Oh, yeah, sure. We sure do. Anyway, moving along.
Everybody's now just turned on to the next show. So I'll probably lost all your...
And ratings drop. We'll just start this over. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, I suppose, about, obviously that you obviously went to college, and at college there's typically a bit of a, they typically train you to, have that mentality of working in a job, and you somehow or other, I suppose, chose the alternate route or were exposed to that entrepreneurial path. Was that as a result of, mentors in your life, or was that just something that you just fell into?
Yeah, I think that was my internal drive, but college made me feel like I had to go out and get the big job. So after college, I actually went to work for over here, the corporate side of things, and worked my way up into the, the next step was to go into the corporate office. And that's when I realized, and then that big company was bought by another big company. And long story short I just felt like everybody was looking over their back and stuff in their pockets to try to match the 401k and all those kinds of things. It wasn't about doing what they wanted to do. It was about, I call it the corporate monkey mentality. And I basically just started over. I actually went to work for one of my customers in Breckenridge, Colorado. And that was, going on 10 years ago. And at that time, I loved the complications of what I was doing. And windows and doors were one of those items that can really make or break a project. So I just said at that time, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to own the high end of the market and be just focus on that and be the experts for the windows, doors, and hardware in Colorado. So that was 10 years ago, and just kind of been working through that. And I bought out a little company called Mountain View Window Design, changed the name to Mountain View Window and Door, and that was January of 2012. And here we are in 2016. And I went from just myself to now I have 2 locations, just added 2 more employees today and another one the other day. So we're at like 23 employees and just having a lot of fun. And the people that we hire are the people that are kind of those entrepreneur spirit people that want to work within the business. And that kind of ties into, when we joked about what is a tradie when you were a guest on my show, it's kind of finding those people that want that entrepreneur spirit. And it's kind of an interesting time when it comes to that, because it's like if you build it, they will come. But a lot of people just want the check and they don't want to work for it. And it's finding those people that will do that and teaching them and having a lot of fun together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not onboarding staff is one thing, but onboarding them correctly and getting them to stay with your company is another thing. Are you familiar with Al Levy, the 7-power contractor in the States?
Our Levy?
Alan Levy.
I'm not, no.
Oh, okay. I'll connect you guys because he's been on our show a number of times, and he's just got fantastic processes around hiring and retaining staff. It was a brilliant podcast. Yeah, he's a really smart dude. He's out of, I want to say Arizona, But anyway. So I suppose, obviously, when we're talking about, you touched on this before, when we're offline, like the uniqueness and niching and that kind of thing. What's the real niche for you guys? Is it just are you window and door installers in Colorado? Is that your supply and install? Is that kind of the angle you guys pitch at?
Yeah, high-end custom residential homes. That's really our wheelhouse. So really working with the architects to spec to secure our vision and then just be the educator and the right supplier to execute and make sure you have a successful project. So that's really what we put our focus towards. On
a slight tangent, I've been seeing a lot of really cool things evolving in the automation space. Do you guys play with that stuff as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Is Anderson Windows is we're the showroom dealer. Actually got the best showroom in the nation award from them last year, and I'm on their advisory council. There's 10 of us here in the States on that group, and they've released a new product. Gosh, it's been going out. It's almost 10 years ago, and it's a technology called Verilok, where the security system is built into the hardware of the window, so there's no wires and there's a little battery, and it's all built into the, and the cool thing about it is it tells you open and close as well as locked and unlocked. But the trick is to getting that smart window to be integrated into smart home technology. So we've done all this stuff with our showrooms and trying to educate, but it's a big deal. So we've talked about it in house to actually kind of be a smart home and have somebody in-house that's a smart home person. But going back to our focus to only do windows, doors, and hardware, we're just staying with that focus and working with industry partners. So we have some AV companies and other people locally that just all of us kind of coming together to have that collaboration work, which I think is really key in our industry when you ask the word technology. We also do door automation. So like in our showroom, we have a Weiland, the panel's 6 foot wide and 14 foot tall, and from your phone or technology, it's all motorized on a belt-driven system, so that panel can open and close through technology. So yeah, we love technology in the category, but it's definitely connecting the dots is a challenge when it comes to that.
Yeah, I just I updated my iPhone this morning to iOS 10, and there's actually now there was actually a a native app on the phone, which is all about automation. I couldn't believe it. So the whole thing is really about, like, I suppose, plugging your home into your phone and getting everything running through automation. Could be lights, locks, thermostat control, whatever it is, doors, windows, you name it, but basically controlling all that stuff from your phone. So I think there's going to be a huge future in that sort of area looking forward.
Yeah, we're just trying to stay in front of them, to be educated as supplying a smart
product,
home product. I think there's going to be a whole thing when it comes to, like you said, with the iPhone having the button, or we work through Savant or Nexia or Control, all these different platforms to play nice, and the whole thing for us is to have the product to integrate into that. And I think that whole sector is going to be a big deal, and it's growing. It's growing really fast, but it's still growing from nothing. So it's in the whole industry, it's pretty small, but I think it's going to come leaps and bounds quick.
Devon, what was the penny drop moment for you when you decided to, I suppose, leave that corporate job you spoke about and enter into your own business, the world of entrepreneurialism?
The penny drop was when the big company, it was Fidelity Investments, bought the other corporate company, and I was already struggling in that corporate world, and I just saw the writing on the wall to follow my passion. And at the time, I was in a transition stage where I wanted to move to Denver, where my girlfriend and I at the time were getting serious, who's now my wife, and it was just the timing made sense. So it was kind of go for broke at that time, and it was the best move I ever made. Now, when I made that move, and then when I was, so the guy it was a whole nother podcast, but basically buying a business was a huge learning lesson. So I was going to start my own company as just be my own little independent rep. But this gentleman that sold the same windows that I had sold at the other place, I met him and he said, "Hey, I'd love to sell the company. You work for me," and we work out a plan. And that's what we did. And while we were working out the plan, Pella Windows, who's another window, just kept upping the ante and just giving me, just kept trying to sweeten the pot. And it was my father-in-law, who is really, he's a college professor and a business coach, and who's really helped me set up my advisory council. And he was the one that I sat down with, and he's like, "Devon, is this really what you want to do, or are you just going to take the money?" And he's like, "I was definitely just looking at the money, wanting to have kids and all that kind of stuff." And he's just said, you're that's not who you are. And I know, and it was kind of that look yourself in the mirror was the real penny drop moment to say, if this is, he said, he looked me in the eye and said, "If this is what you want to do, let me help you buy a building, and let's turn this and make this a career for you." And that was the moment that changed everything, because I bought the business that was in a little 1,500 square foot strip mall. So it was a small buy, which was great. So I learned that whole thing. But then we bought a 10,000 square foot building 6 months later and moved. And we were looking in the 3,000 to 4,000 square foot range, and we were driving from one building to the next, and we passed the building, ended up buying, and it was a plumbing and hardware supplier that was liquidating and going out of business. So the building worked. And so my father-in-law said, "Well, let's look at the numbers and create a business plan." And so we sublet to 3 different businesses, and now they're all gone, and I've taken over the building. And all those things led from that moment to just say, is this really what you want to do? And the answer was yes, and chasing it and just having so much fun after that.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that, maybe not to that scale, but I mean, I very nearly, I'd set up the business actually, and then I was offered a position by a client of mine, for the company I was working for out in Western Australia. That's for you US listeners, that's probably from Sydney to fly there to be 5 hours. Like, it's a lot. It's right across the other side of the country, basically, the far west coast. And it was good. It was a good package they offered, and we were very, very close to going out there. And my fiance Amanda, she sort of said, "Listen, you can take this job if you want, but I know in a year's time you're going to be seriously pissed off that you didn't focus this energy and time on your own business." And I was like, "Oh, you're right." So I sort of knuckled under and did my own thing, and went through the school of hard knocks, as you said, spent a couple of years making very little money, but it turns out it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it the full life perspective that my father-in-law taught me, and it's all about putting your whole life out on paper and how you're going to make it all work. And my wife and my partner, she was basically, she's a PA in orthopedic surgery, and she said, well, I'm doing well. I'm going to work hard. You build this business up, and then hopefully someday things will reverse. And for the first, 5 years now, I always tell everybody that my wife pays the bills and I make the bills. But now we're hitting that tipping point to where hopefully things change. So life is good, but you got to have a team and people around you. You can't build a business by yourself. Even there's a lot of things that have to happen together. And my company is, I call it the Mountain View family, and I'm the leader of the family. You got to have a dedicated leader that will make decisions and keep moving forward and push everybody. But man, it's all about the people. It doesn't matter what the business is.
How about this? Can you remember back to the day when you had to employ your first staff member?
Well, the business I bought came with one employee that wasn't employing much after that. Yeah. And the guy I bought the business from said, "Oh, I'm going to be here for 5 years, and I'm going to be your sales guy." And 2 months later, he cut and fish and cut bait. So there I was, and but the sales rep with me at another company before that. That's the beauty of it going through this as a marathon, not a sprint. People look at me and they say, "Man, you grew that business so fast." And I said, "Well, as the one on the guy on the side of the desk that owns the company, I've built it pretty fast, but this is all I've ever done." And I worked for a lot of other people and learned what I saw them do well and what I didn't see them do well. And I was building my business plan the whole way through. So it was a long process. And the reason I tell you that is that along the way, there was people I met. And you can go back and listen to my show 8 on the art of construction. It's who's now my VP of sales and marketing. When him and I were sales reps at this, I said, someday I'm going to own my own window and door company. I'm putting all that business plan together, and you're going to help me run it. And here he is today.
Yeah, right.
So it's people along the way that I met has really helped. So Brett is my main guy, and I'm the one person at Mountain View that works on the business, where everybody else has a dedicated focus working in the business. And I think that's really key if you want to grow it quick.
That was going to be my next question. What's the role in your business? What do you spend your time doing day to day?
Yeah, so I tell people as the organizational chart goes, I'm the top and I'm the bottom. And I have weekly manager meetings and weekly company meetings that I run. And I'm real big into the E-Myth philosophies, where I really did build these organizational charts of the company I wanted. And it's amazing for me to say, when you put it down on paper, it's so much, it's like it just comes true when you lay it out and put it out on paper, because now those organizational charts are filled out here at our main office in Denver. Now we have our second location that we're a year and a half in working the same thing, but the people over there have this one person's name in a bunch of boxes. And Brett and I and Julie, us three, and our name was in every box and scratch and claw to figure it out. And now I'm honored to say that I am the president. I'm the one working on the business and have great people filling all the roles in the business.
Fantastic. So what's the one thing that keeps you awake at night?
Time and money. You never have enough of either of those two.
Well, hang on. We all have the same amount of time in a day. What's the issue there?
Well, that's the thing. If I get up earlier, I'm not sleeping. Then I have more time to get stuff done.
Time management, eh? That's the ongoing battle.
Yeah, that's. I mean, and just being the leader is you're so proud of your team, and they're so proud of you. It's just at the beginning, it was like so worried about this thing failing, and just you have that fear of, is this really going to work? Because now there's a lot of people that are behind me on this deal, and I think that comes with time and time and money by really focusing on those things. And it was big risks for me when I bought the business. I was all in with a loan, and then it was all in and my family all in when I bought this building. And it's like, oh man, if this doesn't work, now there's more people at stake here. Yeah. And those are the things that are just stressful. But if you really have a good plan and people that support you, I would go for the gusto.
Yeah. If you could fix one thing in the business with a click of a finger, what would it be?
I'm going through this right now and dissecting I'm working on 2017 goals. For me, I always try to do them out have them out for the fourth quarter for everybody else to dissect those. But the top thing right now is just defined systems that I've done all of them A to Z, and now we're in the process of going back to the beginning and doing it again, and it's way more complicated the second time because the first time you don't know what you're doing, so you're just throwing it out there and hope it sticks.
Yeah.
But then when you start back from the beginning, so if I could hit one button, it would be, my refined systems and structure all completed.
Where do you guys store your systems? How does your team view the systems?
Yeah. When people ask me that question, I say the only constant is change, and I'm always looking at what is the best tool out there and to use. But we started like a lot of small businesses that the company I bought had a QuickBooks account and came with the account and just built that up to tell where I had to take it to the next level. And where we really changed our systems is when I started my second location, because now we had to be able to
duplicate
work remotely. That was a big change. And then it's, adding more people. So we actually signed up with the thing that really helped our systems is that we looked at several different software companies to build our own, to customize, and we found one that's called Method. And the reason we chose that is it's kind of to the building sector, but it syncs live with QuickBooks. So as we could build this method for our CRM and estimates and all that kind of stuff, but all the invoicing stayed at QuickBooks. So we could kind of build that systems together because it takes time to figure all that out. And then we did had a consulting company at first, and it was just a real challenge to try to get stuff done and move it along. And one of the best moves I made is that I pushed for interns, but I went to not the big school. Over here we have CU is the big school that everybody's fighting. I went to this Metro State, which is a little bit smaller school, and got to know the gal that's running the intern program. And so she was giving me the best interns, and I hired an intern for the IT department that was just phenomenal because he kind of worked with the consultant. Then he graduated, and his name is James, who oversees. Now I have an in-house IT guy, and now our software and our systems are just going. It's phenomenal what he's able to do, being in-house and working with it day in and day out, and actually, being able to help with the podcast and all these other things. But it's getting the resources, and I call it outsourcing inside until you can build it within.
Yeah. And how do you get your team to follow these systems and these processes? How do you make them accountable to those policies?
Yeah, so my management style is the leader, but it's everybody building this within the Mountain View family. So we use a system called Trello, which is free.
Oh, yep.
It's an online thing. It's like sticky notes on steroids.
Yep.
So throughout the week, anybody that has something to offer or something to change or adjust, they run it through management. They create a Trello ticket. Then at the management meeting, me and my management staff, which there's 5 of us, there's me, the president, my CFO, my VP of sales and marketing, that IT, marketing, and sales all report to, my operations manager, and logistics, which is service, install, and delivery. So we meet every Monday, and then we define the itinerary and go through all those Trello tickets. And then every Tuesday morning, it's a one time a week, everybody comes together and brings all those things at the company level. And then we have monthly sales meetings as well, where we really dissect certain details. So it's really built from within. And it's a real open playbook. I do monthly profit sharing. I'm wear my heart and what I want, I say it. And that's just my management style, which gets you in trouble sometimes, but I'm not smart enough to make things up and hide stuff, so I'd much rather just be open with everybody.
Yeah, I think transparency is kind of the key now, anyway, isn't it? These days, like I just finished recording a series of podcasts with a fellow here in Sydney who runs like a flat rate pricing product, so like upfront pricing books and that kind of thing for basically plumbers. But he was saying, it's funny now, like it seems like that whole sales process is becoming more and more honest because it's so much easier to be caught out if you're not. So it was interesting to hear his take on that. So what do you do when you're not working?
I have a one and a half year old. Well, she's almost 2 now. So in November she'll be 2. So that's really my passion, is my family, and we're blessed to have 2 places to go to in Colorado. So we have a place in Breckenridge and a place in Westcliff. So we love going spending time there. So it's an old log cabin in Westcliff, and then a place on the ski slopes in Breckenridge. So that's our kind of getaways.
Wow. See you in January.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part.
We'll have to do a on-site one, the trifecta.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, actually, we'll be running workshops over there, so we'll collaborate on that for sure. That'll be excellent.
Cool.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
What doesn't kill you make you stronger. And my father-in-law always says, don't expect what you don't inspect. So it's it's keeping those things in check, and then I'm a big quote guy, like above our delivery dock where all the product comes in and out. It says speed is good, but accuracy is everything. And that's if the biggest thing that's taught me is that we're all cut from a different cloth, and we sell or communicate. There's 4 different social styles is how we see it at Mountain View. And I'm an expressive, and I will just go. And sometimes people will be, not confused or not with me along the way. Mm-hmm. So the big advice is just learning that we're all different, and finding your disc or your way that you want to do this. We follow a book called Versatile Selling, and it really helps me understand, like Brett, who is my VP of sales and marketing, he's an analytical. So I'm going 30,000 miles an hour, and he is saying slow down and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So the biggest advice I'd say is surround yourself around good people that you like and trust.
It's funny how much that comes up in these podcasts. People, they talk about this, personality profiling. And I actually did an episode specifically on this back in episode 54 of the Site Shed, and we were talking about, I actually called the podcast "Ever Wonder Why You Annoy People So Much?" because, probably similar to yourself, I am one of those high D personality types. And it wasn't until I read this book. There's a book called Personality Plus from a lady called Florence Littau, and it follows that same philosophy with the personality profiling. But it wasn't until I read that book that I realized why people, why I annoy people and why I can get people on the bad side so often. I just didn't understand the whole difference in personalities and dealing with different personalities. And since I read that book, it changed my life.
Yeah, it's my father-in-law changed my life, just teaching me. He spent 20 years reading every book and everything and kind of put his own system together. And when I bought this business, he's retired now, but for the first couple of years, he was kind of our trainer, and he was coming in and giving us this training stuff that was just blowing everybody's minds. And compared to the corporate world, which was a once a year, bring in some speaker, hoorah, rah, and it was about go make us more money was why they did it. It wasn't about growing the people, from within is how I saw it. So that's where I really bought into that. And now he's taught me to kind of be the trainer from within, as well as always bringing people in. We're always educating. We just brought a guy in that we did a 3-part series with all my sales staff on sales presentation training. And it was just great to call each other out, get in front of the group, and have somebody outside kind of, help us. So to me, it's always be learning.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. You'll have to go back and check out the series we did with Adrian from Train to Sell. He's a sales trainer as well, and he specifically works with trade organisations. And the series we did was selling with confidence, and we were talking about knowing your hourly rate and finding the right customers and selling to the right customers. I think it would be interesting actually for you guys to maybe connect with some of his stuff, because obviously there is a bit of a difference in communicating with the different nationalities. Although we're quite similar in a lot of ways, we're also quite different in a lot of ways. And over the years I've done a lot of American sales training courses, sort of from a technician point of view. And man, you've got to be so careful bringing some of that stuff back to Australia, because some of it is very different.
Yeah, that's interesting. But Kevin and I, who are the co-host on The Art of Construction, is a lot of times when we're kind of recapping an episode, it's a lot of times we're quote unquote pointing out the obvious, but it's regurgitating that stuff that we all have to hear it over and over again, or you can get strayed off. So in different perspectives from different people. So talking about the same topic to different people can maybe some light bulbs can go out different ways. So I love kind of listening to a topic and then kind of talking about it again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's the number one piece of advice you'd give an upcoming business owner or somebody looking to go into business for themselves?
Take the time to put a plan together, and it doesn't have to be a full blown you have to do a business plan this way, but just document and make sure that you look yourself in the mirror and take the time to digest what you're going to do. And that's probably my big advice, because that's what I struggle with. I think I can fix everything, I can just do it. So that comes from me learning to understand my strengths and my weaknesses. My strengths is I will dive in head first every time in a hurry, but that can get you in trouble. So my advice might be is more catered to myself how I answer that question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I listened to well, like a lot of people around the world, I suppose, the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was saying his approach to setting goals is more you have a 6-month goal, but the way you get there is through setting 2-week tasks over 2 weeks. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do this one thing, and you execute that, and you go, okay, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do this one thing, and you execute that. And then over 6 months, you've got a whole series of 2-week tasks that you've completed, and that should get you towards your goal. I think very often, like when we sit down and we do like business planning and that kind of thing, you can plan 6 months, 12 months, 24 months ahead, but it's sometimes hard to visualize because it's so far in the future. Whereas by setting these 2-week goals, it kind of makes it more relevant to where you are right then and there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's hard at the beginning because if you don't know for sure what channel or where you want to go, you kind of have to figure that stuff out. And if you're having to figure it out, you try to be all things to all people in whatever you're doing. And it's really hard to grow that way. But to me, the key to fast tracking something is really get it figured out and understanding your why. And then you say no a lot and figuring out how to say no. It's so hard. I really struggle with that. And I've surrounded myself around people that have really ingrained that culture of really who we are to say no. And we've grown so much faster, and we've had so much more fun saying no, but when the right thing comes, not say yes, but hell yes, and just really kick ass with that.
Yeah. What's your routine or habit? So what do you do when you wake up?
My bad habit is the damn social media is, seeing what's on that. And I'm probably like a lot of people that, you're hooked on it, but I wonder if I should be, why I'm doing this every morning and just turn it all off and go play with my daughter. But, I look at that, and then I have breakfast with my daughter every morning, and that keeps me in check of what it's all about. And then I go hit the road running.
Yeah, nice. Are you reading any books at the moment?
Exceptional Organizations is about Navy SEALs. That was really awesome, about them telling a battle story. And then now they're business coaches. So they relate the battle story into something in the business environment, and then they go circle it and put it all back together. So that was really fun. Redoing Good to Great right now as well.
Oh, okay. Good on you. What about podcasts? What podcasts do you listen to?
Oh, I've just started really getting into the Site Shed. I've been listening to a few of those. That's a new one I found out about.
Excellent.
But I've always... the Tim Ferriss is great. The Entree Architect is another one that's kind of like mine here in the States. His name's Mark LePage. I've met him through kind of like this. He's been a guest on my show as well. And then a friend of mine, his name's Nick May. He is the one that really got me into podcasts. He's here in Denver, Colorado as well, and he runs one called the Shays Lounge that is specifically for designers. And they're kind of somewhere we're trying. So him and I we have breakfast. We try to do it every Friday, but it ends up being about every other Friday, and we sit down and talk about each other. So we listen to each other's and call each other out and that kind of conversation.
I actually connected with Nick. Well, you guys, I think, connected me with Nick after I was on your podcast. But I'd actually heard him on another podcast. So yeah, he'll be coming on the Site Shed soon. That'll be good.
Cool.
So, what is I suppose the most creative, or inverted commas, the best thing you've ever done to find new customers?
the big thing is just keep your, listen, keep your, talk less and listen more, and the good customers come is the key. The 30,000 foot view comment, but one specific thing is just really being the leader of educating, and through our website is we have and buying right. The other thing is just we have really good relationships with our manufacturers to where they are leading customers to us, and it's all about working together properly.
So do you get a lot of leads from your suppliers?
From the manufacturers. So who they manufacture the windows and doors, they do their own kind of national branding. We do the local branding, and it all kind of comes together. Because when you're really going after the the luxury market, a lot of times we're dealing with people that are building their second, third, fourth home somewhere here in Colorado. So that's a key kind of enlightenment to where they have this product in another house, and then they come into Colorado, and we're known as the experts, in that field. Yeah,
right. So would you say that that kind of ties into forming partnerships?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I mean, that's the same with us, I suppose. We've pretty much built the entire business off strategic alliance. So it's interesting to hear you guys do a similar thing in a completely different market.
I think it's similar as you talk about your kind of, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but you call it how you meet up and offsite to your ski mountains and stuff. You've been talking about that. I've been hearing.
Yeah, the learn and ski.
What we do is yeah. So the learn and ski, we do two trips a year to window manufacturers, and it's with architects and builders for 3 days where we take them back and we do, go to tour Frank Lloyd Wright's houses and go to the plants and go on big dinner boat cruises and really get the relationship, but also learn. And we do that. It's a 2-part deal. We have a big trip where last year there was 42 of us that went to Bayport, Minnesota. And then this year there was 20 of us that followed up. That now it's kind of first is the introduction, and then it's the reward after they actually work with us to a more specialized trip. So that's kind of our key thing, and there's a special page now on our website that tells all about it. So we used to have all these little events, and it was always trying to spend all this time trying to get people to come to these events. And there's so many events now that, quite frankly, I get sick of going to events. So we said, let's do a couple really, really good ones that people will get a lot out of and really want to be at, including myself, where I'm going to have a lot of fun at this. So that's kind of what I think we're going to build the framework, and the manufacturers bought into that too, where they pay a big part of that. So we're all back to what we were talking about earlier. We're all in that together as a partnership, and back to our goals. We set that up a year ahead, the dates and the spend, and really tracking that really well. So it's do a few things really well instead of doing a whole bunch of stuff.
How do you guys, I suppose, tackle the whole competing on price argument? I mean, obviously, if you guys are targeting that top end of the market there, do you come up against a lot of competition that are a lot cheaper than you guys?
Yeah, there's always a price, regardless. It could be 1 million, it could be 50 million, but there's always a price. And one of my first bosses in the industry, it really hit home, and it's always stuck with me. And it's in threes. And how he always said it, and I say the same to on a regular basis, is I say price, service, quality, pick 2, because you can't have all 3.
Right.
And then people think, and they stop and think about it, and then they don't. Then they say nothing, and I say, well, at Mountain View, we've chose to really focus. Our 2 is service and quality. If it's all about price, then I suggest you go down the street. And we lead with that. And if someone is price driven right off the bat, I train my team to talk price early and often. Don't sugarcoat it, because you're just going to kick the can down the line, and you truly can't do all 3 of those perfectly. You can do 2 out of the 3, because you can't have the best service and quality but be lower price than everybody else. It just doesn't work. Yeah. You won't be in business.
Man, that's good advice. I might even have to plagiarize that.
That's what these podcasts are all about, right? Exactly. I say a lot of times the best ideas are stolen.
Exactly right. Why reinvent the wheel, eh?
Yeah.
Any tips for winning work, or perhaps getting better conversions?
back to just saying no and knowing who you are and do it and be better than everyone else. Be the most educated, find your ideal customer, know everything about them, and just cater to your ideal customer, and then the business will come. Then you don't have to worry about all the closing techniques. The close will just come.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's I mean, it's obviously something that we've both done, either subconsciously or consciously. I'm not sure, but trying to communicate that to a lot of our audience is sometimes a little bit harder than I expect, because I mean, if they're plumbers or they're electricians, and they obviously don't want to turn work away from any specific area of that niche. But my argument to them always is, well, if you can focus harder on one certain area of that industry and become the expert in that certain field, you've got a much better chance of getting your foot in the door from a marketing point of view, which will then give you the opportunity to upsell or cross-sell.
Definitely. And you just can't know everything about everything. And once you, like, my team is so confident that we are the best at what we do, the people see that. And when you really are that confident and that educated, not cocky and arrogant, it's truly confident, meaning we've put in the time and really have educated ourselves and our customers to listen and understand. That's when the magic really starts coming in.
I'm curious, you mentioned before, you do a lot of work for people that are sort of on their second and third house. Does a lot of that work come through, is it referral?
We work with contractors, architects, and designers. Those are our ideal customers. And the reason we've chose them as our customers, you don't hear the word homeowner in that. If we're dealing direct with the homeowner, it's a one and done situation. If we're working with a contractor, an architect, they're building, designing 5-10 homes a year. So if we are their go-to place, they just keep bringing the homeowner into our showroom, but the homeowner is brought in by them, not by us. The trips are the biggest thing. So we do the 2 yearly trips, and now the word is out that people and we really do it right, to where, if one person from the firm goes, they tell everybody. Now it's blown up, and that's our top thing. And then we have a follow up at our showroom where they come and we really peel back the layers, and they come, and it's not about just getting their credit and all about, it's truly a relationship now, where we had one of our architects that has been on both trips now, and last week he was in our showroom and brought his homeowner in, and I could tell that he didn't set it up, didn't say anything, just the meeting, and Brett was me, and I went in and said, hey, and he stood up and he goes, I know you've got other bids, and I brought you here because if you're going to work with me, you're going to use Mountain View and you're going to use E-Series. Otherwise, you need to find another architect. And everybody looked at him like I'd never heard that ever said, because architects typically just do whatever everybody, they do a great picture and then they let it run with that. But This guy has now understand the value, and because he truly understands this is going to be the best finished project. And architects are really passionate about speccing to secure their vision and having their signature that they're proud of to put a sign in the front of that house. And the whole dreaded value engineer word, let's talk price early and often to where it executes properly, instead of kick the can down the line and end up with some crappy project that nobody's proud of.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty amazing testimonial, I suppose, really, isn't it? In front of all those people.
Yeah, it blew me away. This is working,
So look, we're getting towards the end of this interview now. I've just got a few more questions. I suppose, I'm guessing, well, I don't know, I'll ask you anyway. What's the number one thing you can do to differentiate yourself with your competitors?
Just be laser focused and be better than everybody else. Yeah. Know who you are.
Yep, cool. And what does the future hold for Devon Tilly?
To be the best supplier of windows, doors, and hardware to contractors, architects, and designers in Colorado. That's my career. I want to have a few more locations. Right now we have 2, but I want to just really focus to the mountain communities in Colorado and just own all those pockets and have a lot of fun with it.
Any aspirations to perhaps remove yourself from operations and just live your life skiing and mountain biking?
Well, I've kind of done that now. I'm the one on the business, so I'm working on setting up the next location. But, in my full life perspective, I have 20 years from now to new president, and at that point, then I will one, running the day-to-day meetings. So, but I've only been doing this for 4 years as the owner, so I'm kind of getting into it and having a lot of fun right now. Yeah. So, hey, why would I change that?
Yeah, true. Good on you. Okay, I suppose. And how can people reach out to you?
www.mtnview.us is my company, and there's a contact there where there's my face and bio and email and phone number and all that stuff right there if anyone wants to reach out to me. As well as from that website, there's a link to theartofconstruction.net, which is the podcast, which we're always looking for more listeners and more people to interview like you are on your podcast. So those would be the two channels that I run.
Awesome. And the last question I ask all the guests on the show is, who would you like to see on this podcast next? I know you've already given us Nick May as a suggestion, but is there anyone else?
Yeah, the Charette Venture Group would be cool for you guys. Todd Redding's the CEO of that. And it's really cool. His name, the founder of that, his name is Matt Ostanek, and he created ArchiCAD, the software.
Okay.
And then he sold it off and got a bunch of money, and he reinvested into create a company called Charette Venture Group. And basically what they do is they don't take any money up front, but they come in and invest in an architect's business, which I've really bought into because architects are such great artists and but when it comes to business, that's why I started the Art of Construction, is to educate them on how to have a business. So they do a yearly business plan competition that the 5 finalists, all expenses paid to the National AIA convention, and then they do a full day they present their business plans, and then that night they announce the winner, and they get $20,000 and all this stuff, and that's kind of their funnel. And then they invest in firms from that. And I personally actually just invested into the firm myself. So I think it's really cool what they're doing, because there's so many people that want to help your business, but they're jack of all trades, master of none. So many of them. And that's all they do is work with architects.
Okay, cool. And so they're basically venture capitalists, are they?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, maybe connect us in an email. That'd be great.
And Todd, the CEO, is a guest on my show as well.
Oh, okay. Do you know offhand what episode? I'll filter through. I'll have a look. Well, look, Devon, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Man, it was a pleasure. I'm sure we'll definitely have a call to get you back on the show at some stage. I can see a bit of a collaboration here forming. So
looking forward to it. Yeah. It's so crazy how you talk you turn the mic on, and it's like I feel like I know some of these people more than I know a lot of my friends, because you just really peel back the layers and talk like. Sometimes I don't know why it is, but the people that I am a guest on and have guests into the studio MVWD, it's just we're all real passionate about each other, which is cool.
Yeah, no, that's it. I suppose we've got a lot of common at the end of the day as well. So it was funny. I was presenting at a workshop a couple of months ago, and one of the guys came up. One of the guest attendees came up at the end, and he said, "It's really funny actually listening to you at normal speed." I can totally relate to that, because I listen to all my podcasts in at least time and a half or double time. Everyone sounds like chipmunks, but when you hear them in real life, it's a bit different.
Yeah. Todd was show 37, by the way. 37.
Oh, okay. No worries. I'll look it up. All right. Well, mate, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We will no doubt be in touch in the future. And for the listeners out there, if you enjoyed this podcast, I would thoroughly encourage you, firstly, to leave us an iTunes review, because it helps our ratings. And secondly, head across to the Art of Construction podcast. If you're liking our show, you will love their show. Very similar content, very different format, and a great fun show as well.
Enough shonky talk.
Yes, and very different lingo. Right, listeners, that is a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.